Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining the Choice Solutions and Nutanix webinar today. We will get started in just a minute. Going to give time for people to get settled in. But while we're kind of waiting on people to get logged in, we will use the Q&A feature on the Zoom webinars. If you guys want to use that, again, it's just down at the bottom. So feel free to use that throughout the duration of the event today. And then we will remind you about this, but be sure to fill out the post-webinar survey. It'll be populated in your browser at the conclusion of the event, and then it'll also be in the follow-up email directly from Zoom. So be sure to fill that out because question number 5 is very important. That's how I will collect the information for you guys to receive your MLB jersey. So be sure to fill out all fields. I'll need your full name, address, MLB team selection, jersey size. So that's where I will get that data. So again, in the address, be sure to put the one that you want it shipped to. We do not save personal home address information. It's simply just for shipping the jersey. So be sure to fill that out. We will remind you guys of this towards the end of the webinar. But again, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time, and thank you to Nutanix for helping to sponsor this event as well. So I will turn things over to Dana Steinlage with Choice Solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie, and good day, everybody. Appreciate you making time to be a part of this event with us. I'm excited. We're going to take a little bit of a different approach and angle on things that either you may or may not know about Nutanix, and really focus in on some of the security aspects and benefits, whether as an existing customer or somebody that might be exploring the platform for the future to learn and understand and maybe benefit from in the future. So I'll kind of just a little bit for those that aren't familiar with our team, give you a little bit of exposure there, and then I'll turn it over to Dennis and then Chris Watson as well to kind of go through the core of the content. So I got to show the old family photo, right? Here in the past couple of weeks, we were fortunate enough, first time since COVID, to bring our whole team together. And so this is most everybody on our team is able to join us and our team and our collective Choice family. So I had to show off the family photo real quick. But some of you are joining us from all over the country. We've got a presence in the central U.S., in the Southeast, a growing presence in the Great Lakes region as well. But we had the opportunity to serve your organizations across a number of industries all over the country. So thank you for joining us today. It's again, it's great to have you. For us, our focus and a lot of what we know your focus is as IT and business leaders, you have applications that your business depends upon for your workforce, and you're looking for the best ways to provide that best technology user experience for your workforce to have a consistent workspace, productive, be empowered through how they're accessing applications, desktops, data, services they need to do their work, their best work. All the while on the business side, you need to make sure you have proper security control. And I need to make sure it's something that's a means of a positive thing from a talent perspective, retention, and maybe attracting the new workforce into your organization and team. And obviously you just want productive and engaged employees. All the while kind of behind the scenes, right? We're all focused on this cloud adoption. What's the right cloud journey, right approach for us to take as an organization, as a business, from traditional applications, data centers, IT infrastructure approaches into the right mix of cloud services, whether it be SaaS, whether it be consumption of some things in the public cloud, or if it might be an adoption of private cloud solutions. So, and that's an area obviously we're going to be focused on today with Nutanix, with their platform, not only from a private cloud perspective, but how they can fit into just as a part of your hybrid, essentially as your hybrid cloud strategy, if that's going to be a future destination for your organization. So all these reasons below why you might be looking to go towards that direction today. Again, kind of focus a little bit more on the transition, and the initiative a lot of us are focused on with zero trust security and the new security approach. So all the while, right, everybody's got constraints you're facing personnel wise, whether it be the ability to execute on new projects, keeping up with the day-to-day upkeep, hiring, retaining today's talent in the IT space. That's been a challenge for everybody, especially security. Any security folks know that very well that are on here as well. So our focus as a partner to assist you, we're here for hybrid cloud solutions. We're here to help you as the customer adopts simpler IT environments from the data center or the cloud service all the way down to the secure endpoint. So simple cloud architectures, modern workspaces, and leveraging automation anywhere we can in our solutions. So we can help with traditional procurement. And we've got a number of innovative technology solutions and products in our portfolio from a traditional resale, but also on our team, we've got a great team to assist with unlocking, deploying new technologies. So our professional services team, or coming in, doing reviews, doing architecture designs, different advisory consulting services. If you're trying to make sense of everything and how to do kind of a modernized EUC or modernized approach to delivering applications and adopting the right infrastructure services, we can help out with there. For organizations that might be constrained on resources, we've invested heavily in personnel as well as facilities here to be able to help with managed IT services. So being that partner to help with the ongoing operations of parts of your IT environment, or potentially, depending on the size of your business, all of your environment. Some of our kind of core partnerships that might be a part of our portfolio. Obviously, we're going to introduce Dennis in just a moment. The Nutanix, but help a lot of others with Citrix technologies and adoption of that. Doing a lot with Microsoft, and then from a security perspective, whether it be at the gateway, at the endpoint, in the cloud, Palo Alto Networks, and IGEL. We have many other partnerships, but these are some of the core ones that we do quite a bit with and have some great expertise on our staff and on our team to assist you with. So just, things that we know you're looking for in a trusted IT partner. And that's our goal. That's our aim. You have choices, you have options of who you can be working with as an IT partner. Some are national, some are very, very large, transaction, more related partners. Some are smaller. We are a regional IT partner, and we feel like we, areas that we're a good fit, feel like we really check off all these boxes that we feel like are important to you as a potential customer, and things that we do really, really well. We've just got incredible expertise, especially in this platform product area that we're going to focus on today. And we've been at this for a long time. Our approach, I think any customers that have, I think hopefully you appreciate our approach, and any new prospective customers you do as well. And then the solutions that we really think through and bring into part of our portfolio to kind of converse and offer as options. So we appreciate the opportunity to share information, your time today. Again, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis, but there is a survey. Oh, we do have, so just quick introductions. We have Dennis Arnold. Thank you, Dennis. Thanks for taking a break from your hacking session. And we also have Chris Watson. So Chris is our information security manager on our staff here at Choice Solutions, and maybe a couple area or two that add some color just from a security perspective on some of the things that we see in Nutanix. So I will turn it over to you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Dana. Appreciate it. Can you see my screen? All of a sudden, the purple made my face go dark. I'm not a real hacker. I'm just pretending to be one. But a lot of times we have this image of what hackers might look like, and unfortunately, we just can't recognize them when they're walking down the street because they don't look like Obi-Wan Kenobi like I do right now. So my name is Dennis Arnold. I'm a channel SC with Nutanix, and today I want to kind of talk to you about security in general, and then I want to talk to you more specifically about how Nutanix helps you with security. I'm joined today by Chris Watson. He's a information security manager at Choice Solutions, and he's going to make sure that I don't sit here and tell a bunch of lies about security. And he's going to jump in a little bit once in a while and talk more specifically about some of the things that Choice does from a security perspective. So I'm going to take off my my hacker uniform here and switch over to something a little bit more appropriate. Right. Hopefully there's some Rangers fans out there, and I got to put my glasses on because Obi can't see very well these days and needs the spectacles. So from a security perspective, I want to kind of start with a few market dynamics here. One of the ones that I think is very interesting is that half of employees admit that they're cutting corners when working from home. A lot of us work from home now. And when they say employees at home are cutting corners, what does that mean? You know, we're avoiding using the VPN. We're going and getting devices and using unapproved, unsecured devices to get to corporate data, to get to corporate apps. And it's interesting that tons and tons of money every year gets spent on security, right? But despite all that spending, despite all that money, we're still getting hacked, cracked, scammed, right? Ransomware, it's a real thing. We're going to focus in on that here in a little bit. And by the way, passwords, very important, right? You got to check those passwords. And in fact, Chrome will tell you kind of, if you've ever looked at it, Chrome tells you what passwords that you have that have been involved in a data breach, which of course that means that they have to know your password in the first place in order to know that it's been involved in a data breach. And so, you know, you wonder how to keep these things safe. So I know that Choice has a solution for enterprise password solutions. So Chris, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, password management and credential management is a huge part of securing your organization. You know, for guys who've been around for a while, you probably recognize the edge as, you know, your firewall, your network, and your perimeter. But a lot of folks are now trying to transition to, you know, identity and access management is the new edge because of the cloud, you know, proclivities and things like that. So using an enterprise password manager, you know, how does your organization manage shared credentials? How does your organization manage, you know, credentials that you need or you owned? And then how do you safeguard those vaults from, you know, a user locks themselves out? Do you have any kind of administrative way to help them regain that vault? And also enforce, you know, policies in that way. I always tell my folks, my goal is for you to remember one or fewer passwords. And so using, you know, a password generator and a tool like this, you know, you can make it as strong and as crazy as you want with all the symbols you need. But getting it, especially when you talk about, you know, access to core infrastructure and really the things that are the foundation of your business in a lot of cases, just how do you, again, protect those credentials? So in another day and another time, we'll have a conversation about that.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
Yep.
And as it turns out, security is not your problem, right? You in general, the folks on the call, it's not your problem. Well, actually, it is your problem. Security is everyone's responsibility. And security risks come from a lot of areas. You have blind spots that come from complexity. You have lack of visibility. That's something that Nutanix can help you with. And I'll talk about that as we go on, this visibility issue. Now, the money spent on security is money well spent in general, but it doesn't fix the human effect. And so, you know, as an example, human effect, couple of, you know, one thing I recall is one of my buddies recently sent me a Facebook message that said, hey, check out this funny video, right? And this was on my phone, and I clicked on it, and then all of a sudden it popped up the screen that prompted me for my Facebook credentials. And I thought, that's interesting. Normally when I open up a link in a Facebook message, it doesn't ask me for my credentials. So I called my friend and I said, hey, did you just send me a message on Facebook? And he was like, nope. And I said, well, somebody might have sent you a message and you might have put in your credentials. So you might go and check that. And sure enough, he'd been hacked, right? But was he hacked or was he tricked? You see, that's the thing that's going on nowadays. So, but so you can see how easy that is. Now, from an infrastructure perspective, one of the things that we suggest is a native secure platform. You know, you can do security the old way, or you could do nothing, or you can hire Choice to do it for you, which is probably the best idea of those three things. But what we've historically done is take security and sort of cobble things together. We analyze each component of our infrastructure and we apply security uniquely to each of those components. But then it becomes very difficult to manage. It becomes very difficult. It becomes very complex to deploy. And then what we end up doing is, because security and convenience are mutually exclusive, we just
Right.
do what we need to do in order to accomplish the project, in order to get it done, right? We're going to punch a big hole in that firewall to make sure everything works correctly, and then say, oh, we'll come back later and fix that. But then What if we don't, right? That creates a problem. So we got to be careful with that. Now, we believe at Nutanix that hyperconverged is a better foundation for cybersecurity. Now, we'll dig into this more as it relates to Nutanix, but legacy infrastructure, 3-tier infrastructure, that thing we've been trapped into doing for so many years, has a lot of elements. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen that it's very complex, and there's a lot of components to legacy infrastructure. And on the right, you can see that we help reduce complexity at Nutanix, and that in and of itself provides some value with respect to security, right? Or, you know, when you look at it in terms of ROI, when you look at it in terms of TCO, long-term investment is smaller, so we've got more spend for security, and security that makes sense, right? I mean, when you think about it, organizations who spend as little money as possible on security because security is expensive, that's a tough thing, right?
Right.
So what we do at Nutanix is we try to make security invisible. What does that mean, right? That means like we put on our hoods and our glasses and go incognito mode. No, that's not what that means. What it means is that we start with a platform. We secure and harden the platform at its very inception. So when Nutanix first went to market with a product in 2012, that product was marketed specifically for government entities. And so we had to make sure that our product, right from its inception, met government security requirements. And I'm going to show you a slide later that kind of drives that home. Now, we have security in mind, not only as a part of a deployment in a customer environment, but also in how we develop our software in and of itself. We integrate security best practices as part of our standard development process, and that allows us to deliver a much more secure platform and gives us the ability to respond to newly discovered threats in a much faster way. The other thing that we don't often call out is we build the STIGs into the platform. So what is a STIG? You're like, what is that? Is that something that somebody hits you with when you're bad? No, that would be a bat. No, I'm just kidding. This is baseball themed, right? So a STIG is a set of instructions on how to secure technology. And so this is important because if you want to sell technology to the government, as an example, and many other organizations, you have to, when you sell that, you then have to provide this list of instructions. Okay, so you've done the implementation. This is the set of instructions that you have to go through in order to secure the environment. We build that in. Not only do we build it in, but we automate it, and we have a process by which it's self-checking. So if somebody in the organization breaks something that is put in place to adhere to the STIG, we recognize that right away, and we remediate it in an automated fashion. Okay, so that's an important differentiator that we have. Another important differentiator is time to value, right? When you time to value means the time that you're able to extract value from a thing that you've implemented. For instance, we've all been kind of caught into the trap of first you buy a thing, and then there's this period of time that goes by before you can make use of the thing. We call that time to value. With Nutanix, because of a lack of complexity, we shrink that time to value. So when you apply this to security, right? When you look at traditional 3-tier infrastructure, you've got to install it, you've got to harden it, you've got to document the baselines, you've got to get accreditation. This takes months of effort. Remember that it's not just about deploying infrastructure, it's deploying infrastructure and then be able to use infrastructure. You can't use it until it's been secured, right? Because then you create issues with that. Nutanix automates this process. So the time to value is days instead of months, okay? Now, another big thing that we talk about is encryption, right? Whether you want to use standard drives, so we're talking specifically here about data at rest encryption, okay? So you can take a standard plain old hard drive, right? And then you can use encryption to encrypt the data as sort of an add-on, if you will. We call that software encryption, and Nutanix has software encryption built in. The other thing that we do is we support self-encrypting drives. Self-encrypting drives have the encryption built into the drive, built into the firmware of the drive. So the data is encrypted and decrypted at the firmware level on the drive. Now, of course, if you do it at the drive, theoretically it's faster than if you do it through software. Okay. From a Nutanix perspective, it's not only data encryption at the drive, though. We can also apply encryption to containers. So you can apply encryption to a container that's part of your storage array. You can also apply encryption on a per VM basis now. So think about that. In the old way of doing things, I had to encrypt everything. In the new way of encrypting, I can actually, especially with Nutanix, I can decide what I want to encrypt, right? So I have a set of VMs, their data, particularly important. I want that data encrypted at rest, okay? Now, a lot of people will say, hey, my data is not important, right? We don't have anything really that's all that important. Well, it's important when you don't have access to it anymore. Think about that. Not only that, but your hacked infrastructure can also be used as a launch point for getting into other places, right? And that creates some culpability on your part if you haven't given security due diligence, right? Also, another thing I want to mention is that we have figured out the absolute best place to keep your data, right? To keep it, where should you keep your data? When people say, where should I keep my data? You can tell them the best place to keep your data is in a mausoleum.
What?
And why would that be? Because in a mausoleum, everything is encrypted at rest. Okay, don't forget about that. And there are other ones. Now, since we're talking about security, right? It's baseball season. The first thing that came to my mind was, how do I play on that? And I don't know, if you might remember this. I remember it because, I'm a bit of a part-time fan of the Rangers, but you can see here, you've got Nolan Ryan. That's the secure Nutanix platform. And just as an example, there's a cyber criminal and Nolan Ryan saying, you want my data? How about a knuckle sandwich instead? So just having a little bit of fun with that.
This is the first time
Now,
a player got 6 hits off Nolan Ryan in one game.
Yeah, no, we don't want to tell everybody the backstory. So, what is top of mind for a lot of organizations, though, in terms of security, right? It's ransomware. So I want to kind of focus in on ransomware. So you start with the secure platform. You make sure that you can accommodate data at rest encryption. You make sure that you have a strong password policy. All of these things are very, very important. But sometimes ransomware has a funny way of sneaking into your organization. And so how does that happen? Well, first of all, let's talk about what happens when it happens, right? So some data from a Forbes article here. 37% of businesses were victims of ransomware. That's 37% of all organizations. About 80% of all organizations, every organization has been a victim of ransomware, right, over the years. But just last year, it was 37%. And this is a crazy statistic to me. 32% of that 37% paid a ransom, right? That's a lot of money. In fact, on average, it's $1.85 million to recover from ransomware. That was in 2021. In 2023, if you're a victim of ransomware, you call me, I'll take care of it for half of that amount. Of course, I'm going to hire Choice to go actually fix it, and I'm going to give them like 20,000. You give me $1 million and I'll take care of it. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
A real big statistic here is 16 days of average downtime. I mean, think about what it would be like for your organization to be down for 16 days. That's a massive amount of time to be down. And when you're talking about, people say, or organizations will say, we're down for a minute, it's like $1 million a minute, we're losing money, right? And every 11 seconds, a business gets attacked by ransomware. But these cyber criminals, they're very, very difficult to catch, right? Because what happens is when the police are closing in on the cyber criminals, they disappear. Where did they go? Maybe they ran somewhere. I don't know. But from an industry perspective, this is where a lot of the attacks are occurring. Now, you remember that I mentioned that we started out dealing with a lot of government agencies. Government was kind of our killer customer, and VDI initially was kind of our killer workload. But look at defense industrial base. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe a lot of attackers don't want to mess with those folks, but healthcare and public health, ooh, lots of attacks. That's a high risk business. So you've got to ask yourself, are you in a high risk business, right? And what are you doing about protecting yourself from ransomware? So let's talk about how we deal with ransomware. What do we do? What do we need to put in place, right? It requires a strategy. You can't just say, ransomware, I did this and this, and now we're good. No, not necessarily, right? So one of the strategies that we recommend is kind of a three-part strategy. First of all, we want to try to prevent ransomware. Now, in the event that we get infected with ransomware, we want to be detected, right? We want to know that we're infected. And then finally, we've got to have a mechanism to recover in the most awful scenario where we actually get the ransom note. Speaking of ransom notes, myself and one of my buddies at Choice, we've got this website, and he started getting this emails that said, we have access to your data, we have access to your database. If you don't pay us money, then we're going to encrypt your data and we're going to ruin your reputation. Now, he and I were like, wait, what? This is just some silly, little thing. A lot of people think it's cool, but we're like, what data is there? What are they going to get? So of course, I immediately go in and I change all the passwords and everything on the databases, and changed all the passwords to Kenny, of course, so that I would have all Kenny logins. Nah, I'm just kidding. I just made that up right now. But no, that's not what we did. But my buddy, he was kind of disappointed because the ransom was like $3,000. Everybody else has to pay like millions of dollars in ransom, and they only wanted like $3,000 from him. So we were a little disappointed. But anyway, the thing about ransomware is not magic. Nobody comes in and sprinkles some magic ransomware dust in your environment. It starts with common attack videos, phishing, malicious web pages. That email, that message that I got that said, hey, check this out, and then prompted me for my credentials. Software vulnerabilities, right? So what are some best practices, right? Requiring multi-factor authentication. That's a big one. And you know what? It's a pain. I don't like it that much. I don't like that when I log into a SaaS app, I have to get a notification and I have to accept the notification. Then I have to go to the app and look at the numbers and then go back over here and click on the number that correctly corresponds to. It's just like, but it's secure, and I'm glad that it's secure, right? Using microsegmentation, that's an important one. We'll talk about that in a minute. Patching. But I'll tell you, the ransomware thing, it's real, right? Like it exists and it's so easy. So at Nutanix, we've got this security group, and every once in a while they send out emails to people. I got one of these emails. In fact, I've gotten several of these emails, and it's like, hey, here's an email, and it looks totally legit. And it says, click on this link for a thing. And I will admit, I wasn't wearing my glasses or something. That's my excuse. I saw the link, it looked legit. I clicked on the link, nothing happened. And I was like, oh, it must be a broken link. Well, about 5 seconds later, I get an email from IT security that says, hey, congratulations, you just got enrolled in some security training. And I was like, I clicked on the link. But I was kind of glad I did, because it gave me an opportunity to watch this video by Kevin Mitnick, famous hacker, TC priest. He showed in real time how easy it was to get infected by malware, right? And so I was like, okay, yeah. And it got me thinking about strong passwords and about how, I used Kenny, right? Shouldn't have done that. So I had to go change it to Kenny1 ! But make sure you never, ever use Fortnite if your password for your password. If you're, a gamer, don't use Fortnite as your password because it's too weak. Now, when we're talking about application security with Flow, this is microsegmentation. This helps cut out complexity. This actually really helps secure things, because what Flow does is it wraps every virtual machine in the environment with a stateful firewall, right? And that's important. It is not agent-based, and the policies for Flow are very easy to deploy. Okay, and it comes with this visualization engine also. So that's a very important thing, because when you look at wanting to secure things, it's very important to be able to visualize and discover traffic. So you know the difference between the good traffic and the bad traffic. Then what you do is you create segments. And so from a Nutanix perspective, you create categories, you put virtual machines into categories, and you secure those using policy. It's not based on an IP configuration. So you're not in a firewall banging away, banging out all of these ACLs, right? These access control lists. That's not how we do it. It's a policy that we apply, okay? And the policy applies to the VM, no matter where the VM lives. So that VM can move to different environments, production, dev, whatever, change its IP address, it's fine. The policy always applies to the VM. And now we can actually apply policy to users. And we call this model a zero trust model, okay? Many workloads have their own security mechanisms. So you might have a workload, you might have some infrastructure. We don't want to have to secure things individually that way, though, because you don't want to have this pile of workloads, and every workload has their own security solution. You can see some examples here. Robo, own security. SAS, its own security. EUC, its own security. That's a big one. A lot of vulnerabilities come from that because you're giving people a hosted desktop in the data center, right? So with Nutanix, we take the zero trust support, or zero trust approach, which means that if I don't explicitly allow something, then it is implicitly denied. I don't trust anything. So when you look at traditional perimeter-based security on the left-hand side of this zero trust model, that's a model where you create a box, you put virtual machines in the box, and you protect everything in the box with the perimeter of the box. Well, guess what? The things in the box can still talk to each other, and inevitably something in the box can get infected and talk outside of the box, okay? That's a bad thing. What we want to do is make sure that everything in the box, and you can still put VMs in boxes, you can still put VMs in secure VLANs, but we want to make sure the VMs in the VLAN can't talk to each other. And we call that securing the east-west traffic, okay? So that's zero trust, and that's microseg. And all of our security applies to our entire stack. So this is kind of a look at our stack, and where Flow, where microsegmentation comes from, is a part of cloud infrastructure. There's another pillar that we have called Cloud Manager, and oftentimes, whether you're a Nutanix customer or a prospective Nutanix customer, we combine these two things to make sure that holistically you have the right solution, and that solution is secured, and that you have visibility into that security. Okay, now, so that's kind of the protection piece, right? We want to create walls that the hackers can't knock down and get through. But if they do, we want to be sure that we're able to detect. Okay, so how do we detect the damage? How do we detect whether or not we've been infected with ransomware? Increased network activity, that's a big one. High storage IO, that's a big one. I put this little graphic here down in the bottom right-hand corner to show you that some ransomware variants can encrypt nearly 25,000 files per minute, right? And that's what ransomware does, right? It gets in there, it sneaks in there, it starts staging encryption. And when the attackers decide it's time, to issue the ransom or demand the ransom, they encrypt all your data. Actually, they encrypt your data and demand a ransom to unencrypt it, or they let you know that they're about to encrypt it and demand the ransom. And if you don't pay the ransom, then they encrypt the data. But there are some tells for when you are when you have been compromised here. So a lot of key best practices: use network inspection tools, deploy SIM tools, right? Security, information, and event management, and a leverage anomaly detection. We do some of this inherently, natively with Nutanix products, okay, or with our platform. But one of the things we don't do, one of the things that you really need to reach out to Choice to help you decide how to accomplish this is advanced threat detection, right? So we integrate with advanced threat detection. And what that means is that we can identify VMs in a category or on a specific network segment, and we can say all the traffic coming from and going to that particular segment needs to be routed through a device, typically a virtual appliance like from Palo, that allows that device to inspect that traffic. That's very important, particularly for traffic that is either A, especially vulnerable, or B, especially critical to the business and represents the potential for security risk. So we inherently can route traffic over to that device, but we do not provide that device. Choice is who would provide that device for you. And we partner very closely with Palo, and there's a few other ones. I know that Choice is a strong Palo partner. So moving on, just want to make sure that has anything popped up in chat or message, anything that we need to address right now, Chris?
Not that I've seen.
Okay,
Nope.
moving
But-
on.
I'm just doing a lot of
Now
nodding.
remember, go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
So no, just doing a lot of nodding over here. Everything you're saying is spot on.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I can't see any of that because I don't see anybody's video. But anybody who's on video is hopefully you're nodding along or you shaking your head at times when the jokes come up. I know you're out there. So we talked about anomaly detection, right? And that's very important. One of the things that we have is called file analytics. And there's a SaaS-based version of this that I'll mention in a minute. But file analytics applies to file and object storage, right? And so one of the things we do with this, and by the way, file analytics is built in, right? And it is a thing that you automatically own when you have Nutanix files or when you have Nutanix objects. So when you actually own our file sharing product or object storage product, this is an entitlement of that. So this isn't a thing that you go buy separately, right? File analytics does a lot of stuff for you. It tells you who gets access to what and when. It does anomaly detection. So if Mary over in HR is trying to get to files that are owned by Bob in engineering, that might be an issue. We can figure out if Mary is a hacker or if Mary has been hacked, right? Audit trails, very important. It's data about your data, plus some advanced logging, data age analytics. These are all good things to know. You've got to know how your data is being used and who's using it and whether there's anomalous behavior going on, okay? And you've also got a number of dashboards you could take advantage of. We took this product and we tied it to what we call Data Lens. Data Lens is a cloud-based governance service that allows customers to manage their exploding data growth, right? Everybody has exploding data growth. The one thing about your organization that's very, very important is your data. Even if you don't think it's important, your data is very, very important. So we use now Data Lens from a cloud perspective to look at all of your files and objects deployments if you have a lot of Nutanix in your environment, okay? Now, another thing to keep in mind is that we've got to be able to recover, okay? Ransomware is a service. that impacts operations, just like any other disaster. We've got to make sure that we have a plan in place to recover from ransomware. Because again, we can look at ransomware and we can say that it's just like many other disasters. And if you noticed on the statistics slide that I showed you earlier, actually, it wasn't on the slide. It was a note. About 57% of folks who were actually affected by ransomware were able to recover using cloud-based storage or object storage. Okay, in other words, immutable storage is very important to your recovery. Immutable storage is your far-term backups, those things that cannot be changed. So we mark things as immutable using object storage and using worm technology, not worm like what you use for phishing. Worm as in write once, read many. Okay, write once, read many. That's the nature of worm. And again, it's immutable, which means that we can't change it. So it's important to have that, right? And then of course, your standard backup process, your standard backup procedures are applicable here. You know, the 3-2-1 rule, 3 copies, 2 media types, 1 offsite. This applies to ransomware recovery also. Right now, if you want to quickly recover from ransomware, these attacks are increasing. As you know, we can combine sync and near sync and backup. Nutanix has all of this natively. Now, we do not have the backup solution, right? That requires backup software from the likes of Haiku, Commvault, Veeam. There's a number of them, many of which integrate natively with Nutanix. What we provide is the object storage in the form of Mine, right? So Mine is Mine. No, I'm just kidding. Mine is a Nutanix product that provides for backup, but it does, and it really technically is an object store, right? So it does require the backup software. So you got to keep that in mind. Backups are very important. And backups traditionally have been a thing that were kind of not top of mind, right? I can't tell you how many organizations I've been into where something happens and there's a problem in a VDI environment, for instance, and the problem ends up being that the transaction log on the SQL server has filled up because the backups were not finishing correctly. Because when you back up SQL, it's supposed to delete the transaction logs, right? Because now they're backed up. If that process is broken, then it breaks other parts of the environment. But you've got to be focused on making sure those backups complete. So we can help in a lot of areas, right? From a prevention perspective, these are the areas we help with. RBAC, flow, lifecycle management, worm policy, things like that. That's all prevention. Detection, we've got a number of things that help you there. And then, of course, recovery. We've got a number of things that we can help you with there. And we sort of tie that all together here with this list of product names and sort of where they fit in that ransomware story. We've got a number of things that help with prevention, a number of things that help with detection, and then finally, a number of things that help with recovery. So if you want to experience some of this, of course, our friends at Choice, my bestest, favoritist managed partner, can help you with that, give you more information on that. They're much better at the holistic security story than I am, and let them help you sort of tie it all together. But if you want to experience some of it, let us know, or just go out and try it yourself, right? You can try some of these security things actually exist in Nutanix Test Drive. And this is where you can go through and get a guided tour of Nutanix technology. I invite all of you to try that out. So hopefully some of that resonated with you. Never mind all of the jokes. I'm done with jokes. I'm sure you've had enough of that by now. So I'll leave you with thank you slide, and hope that there was something in here that you found useful. I hope everybody does the survey and gets the cool jersey. The Rangers jerseys are half off today. No, I'm just kidding. No, there's a premium on Rangers jerseys, I think, and hats, because I think the Rangers are doing pretty well right now. I don't know who they're playing next. I don't remember, but the Rangers are like 18-6, and they're playing somebody soon that's like 6-18. I don't know. Don't get me telling lies about baseball.
It's April.
It's
It's
not my
cool.
sport. But I appreciate everybody's time today. I'm going to stop sharing and see if we have any questions in the chat, or if we have any, final notes or comments from Chris. Anything you want to? Did I miss anything? Any more?
No,
Any
no,
more security stuff?
no. This was solid. No lies told. But yeah, we'd love to have the conversation with you on how we can integrate your infrastructure with your overall security and risk strategy. I know a lot of times, when infrastructure comes up, they're like, well, why is there a security guy at the table? And when it comes down to our basic facets of confidentiality, integrity, availability is the one that we really push with this type of discussion. What does it look like for your data to be available? What does it look like for your systems to be available? So if you're ever asking, why is there a security guy on this call? Could be one of those three things, but yeah, we'd love to see how that integrates with your complete risk portfolio and how that can help sort of mitigate some of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Well, I think my time here is done. I'm going to go back to my my Tempest video game that you can see in the background there. And I appreciate everybody's time today.
Yeah, and thank you, Dennis. Great job. Thanks for sharing with everybody. Like Ellie mentioned, the survey will come up. Please complete that. If you're a customer today, and I know we covered a lot of things on, just from the security, from the software development approach to things as encryption, to microsegmentation, to things, the capability of files, all these things that kind of tie into it from a security perspective. But there's something you'd like to learn more about, just in the survey, just make a quick comment. I mean, we'll follow up as well. And if folks that are new, maybe don't have investments in Nutanix, but would like to explore it more, we'd love to have that conversation too. Just put a comment there on the survey as well, and do any kind of feedback that we can make these events better and more valuable. Just offer that feedback as well. So again, it's kind of not focused on a lot when organizations are looking to invest in the platform, but it's a huge strength of Nutanix. It's a big reason why they've had a lot of successes they've had, and some of the security capabilities and the value that has beyond just, the simplified operations, the scalability, kind of that being able to bring that the enterprise, all the benefits of the cloud scalers that are out there, but the ability to potentially bring that into your environment as a consumable kind of cloud solution in your data center that you have control over, or being able to leverage it and consume it in AWS or Azure or other places. So that's the value that Nutanix brings. That's a value we've experienced in helping others adopt the platform. And anything we can do to share just around successes, or maybe how it potentially might be a fit for you, we'd love that opportunity. So thank you, Dennis. Thanks, Chris, for joining us from the security perspective, and hope everybody has a fantastic day.